YouTube. If anyone's got the link and they want to post it. Almost at that $1,000 mark on subscribers on YouTube. I'm happy to see it. But before I say anything else, let's do the disclosure. I am an associated member of T3 Trading Group, which is an SEC registered broker-dealer and member of FINRA SIPC. All trades placed by me are placed through T3 Trading Group. You should carefully consider whether trading is suitable for you in light of your own financial condition. I have COVID. Oh wait, that's not in there, but it's true. Position disclosure. Yeah, added some positions on, Got into Facebook a couple days ago. Then added Microsoft and pins yesterday. Added Nikola today. Been waiting for a market signal to do that. So let's go to the videotape, as they say. All right. ZS. So we got Workday down right now, right? Workday's down 5%. We got Ulta up 15%. We got ZS up 15%. These will all be on the radar. Can't hear on mobile. I don't know what to tell you about that one. Log off and log on, but you can't hear me. You can't hear me to tell you that. All right. So, really solid day today. I'm not getting sound in the VTF. Can no one hear me? You guys hear me? Does anyone... Hello? I don't know. I gotta... YouTube works? Okay. Did I not? I did two different things there. You guys can hear me now, right? I did two different things there to try to get the sound back on. I think it was this Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams is the worst of, I think, of all of the streaming meeting services. You got the Google one that I use a lot. You got Zoom. But I was invited. I was in a meeting earlier today that was through Microsoft Teams. And the problem with Microsoft Teams is that it hijacks your microphone and everything. So then later in the day, hours later, that was a 1 p.m. Eastern meeting. Hours later, when I'm trying to do a meeting with you guys, no one can hear me. But as long as we're all resolved now. All right, so no one heard anything that I said, which probably means I should make the compliance department happy by redoing the disclosure. Because we always, when you got the compliance department happy, what's that saying that they have? Happy wife, happy life. They should adjust that to happy compliance team, happy trader. I don't know, so something like that. Terrible joke, but so I'm an associate member of T3 Trading Group, which is an SEC registered broker-dealer and member of FINRA SIPC. All my trades are placed through T3 Trading Group. You should carefully consider whether trading is suitable for you in light of your own financial condition. Like I was saying before, added some longs on over the course of the last 3 days here. Facebook, Microsoft, pins, Nikola. I've been waiting for a signal from the market. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I guess I should also disclose that I have COVID. I haven't really had too much of a cough, but occasionally it hits, and I always feel really bad coughing into a microphone because there is nothing worse than hearing somebody cough into a microphone. Anyway, back to talking about. Yeah, I mean, I did 2 of those stay-at-home tests, and they both came up positive. So, I guess today's technically day 4 of having symptoms. I basically just felt like I have a cold, and I've been a little bit tired. And today I felt much better. Honestly, the only thing that sucks is talking. That's why I asked Pat to do 2 of the afternoon meetings this week. And it's also why I have not been on the VTF during the day as much today, is honestly just talking sucks. But feeling a little bit better, and happy with how the market's going. I've had a good P&L week, I think, so far. So hopefully that makes me feel better. Anyway, to get into it here, big update, right? S&P here, SPYs are up almost 2%. Qs are up 2.6%. IWM here is up 2.2%. It's a really strong day. And we were looking for it. You know, like I said in the morning meeting, if this, and you know, I talked about the bull and bear case this morning, right? You know, technically we're having a common gap up into a resistance level. You want to look to be shorting that. I do tend to be, you know, a little bit more bullish than bearish, just broadly when it comes to trading. That's probably because over the course of the 12 years of my career, what I've seen is, in the long run, you're better off overall being bullish than being bearish. Though obviously in bear markets, when the market's going down, whether it was COVID in 2020 or so far here in 2022, you can make really good, really fast money to the short side as well. So I'm not opposed to shorting. I love shorting strategically. I also have had probably the majority of the biggest trading losses I've ever had in my career have been to the short side. So I'm definitely not as what's the word I'm looking for? I'm definitely not always ready to jump into the pool with both feet to the short side in the same way that I am to the long side when I have those signals. You know, maybe that's not always a mistake. Maybe that's sometimes a mistake. I'm certainly tend to be more patient to the short side. But, you know, not afraid to hedge myself, of course, like I was doing back here at the end of March. But, so, you know, this morning we talked about, you know, don't be afraid to put that short on. This is technically a common gap up into resistance. 400 is a bit of a psychological level, and we got multiple major resistance levels above that. Don't be afraid to take that trade. Just make sure that you have your risk set and your stop loss out, and don't be afraid to flip to the long side if the market's really showing you that it wants to be strong today, and we're able to identify some sectors of the market that are relatively strong. And that's, you know, kind of how it went down today. And I think this is what we were more looking for. There's been these kind of underlying signals here with the market that has led me to believe that we could see some higher price action, and we got that. And I was also saying in the morning meeting today that if the market were to go up now, and this were to be like at least let's just call it a short to intermediate time frame bottom, like not one of these bottoms like what we had here, or I don't know, even like back in some of these areas, like not one of these bottoms where within 2 to 3 weeks we're making new lows. But like, what if this is a bottom that actually lasts here? And again, I'm not saying bottom and then the bottom where we're immediately back at $450. I'm not saying that. But what if this is enough to, you know, bring us back to, I don't know, just throw out some numbers, 415 to 430 in the SPYs, and then we stabilize up there, not really work our way all the way back to 450, but not come all the way back down to new lows. I feel like if that were to happen, this would just be like the most hated intermediate time frame bottom ever. No one is looking for this bounce, I feel like, in the same way right now. We said in the morning meeting, you know, going into OPEX, everyone seemed like they were talking about, everyone was bearish and looking for the bear market rally, is what it really seemed like. That's what everyone was talking about. The bear market rally is going to come in. It's going to be, similar to the second half of March. And we didn't get it. It really started with this Wednesday. I keep talking about the importance of Wednesday, May 18th for the market. Right, this is when we were just looking a little bit better. We were testing the downtrend line. We closed well on Tuesday. Tuesday was the day that Jerome Powell spoke. And then the next day we gapped down, and this was one of the most vicious selling days I feel like I've seen over the course of my trading career. I feel like I've probably said that 2 or 3 times in the year 2022 so far, which doesn't mean it's not true. In some ways, this was also one of the most ruthless days I've seen on the downside in my trading career. So that's 2 days here in May alone that were just totally brutal. And honestly, half of the day on this day, on May 20th as well. We negated that today, right? We negated this negative Maribozu. That's extremely important. That's bullish. Everyone who sold now on this day, and there was a lot of selling that day, they were wrong. The short sellers were out of the money. The long sellers were wrong. They might look to start getting back into this market at some point. I don't want to get too excited yet, because we are right into our next resistance level. So the market has a lot more work to do, right? We said that the space between this high, which is 403.80, and 406 is resistance zone 1, and then right after that you got resistance zone 2, which is this high here, 408.50, up to 410. 408.50 being this pivot, so if we can get above it, we're breaking the pivot, the last pivot high of the downtrend. 410 or 4,100 for the S&P is a major level that we broke down from. It was a major support level that we lost. So definitely a good initial day here, but there is a lot of work that's still to be done. And speaking of this trading session where the actual low is in, if you guys all remember, one of the things that we talked about in that afternoon meeting and even in real time was the selling was different this day. I remember off the open just seeing or was that 2 trading sessions ago? No, I'm sorry. Yeah, that was this day. That was just 2 trading sessions ago. It almost gets masked in the SPYs because it's a smaller candle in some of these. The selling was different just a couple of days ago here when we broke down on that first hour and a half from what I saw. It just really seemed like there was somebody, because of the snap, earnings report that kind of came out, people were just market selling out at everything. Just get out, just get out, just get out. So in a lot of ways, that was kind of one signal. The IWM showing relative strength was another signal, and still continuing to close above 175 and not making that new low. That was another signal. And here we are, kind of breaking our way up a little bit. We also had spoken about how maybe the Apple and Microsoft selling was a little bit more later stage bear market. We'll see. Like I said, so far so good. I think that if we went up here, it'd be a hated bear market, just because now no one's looking, a hated bear market rally, because no one's looking for the bear market rally anymore, and everyone is just chatting about the next leg lower, right? You've got all the big banks, you got Mike Wilson, JP Morgan, you got Goldman, you got all these banks making their case for, the space between 340 and 360 in the SPYs, right? 3,400 to 3,600 in the S&P. And look what just happened. We finally just broke up here when no one's looking for it. So it'd be really interesting if we can get some upside follow through. Today was a great day for bulls. Really closed in an area where you need it to. But again, it's still right into these next big resistance zones. We closed right in the middle of resistance zone number 1. You got resistance zone number 2 that's right above it. The Qs here still have a lot of work to do. The Qs, unlike the SPYs and the IWM, we're not yet able to negate this negative Maribozu. They just got back to this $300, which is like a, again, important psychological level. There's a lot of more work that needs to be done to get that above the 21 EMA and above its levels. But the Russell looks great. The Russell looks really good here. Close above the 21. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Close above the 21. Close above this breakdown day from that Wednesday. We did not get a close above It's very close to it. We did trade above even this pivot. I want to close above this pivot. But looking just a lot better here for this market across the board. Give me 1 second here just to manage a position. So I guess the real question here is, can the bulls give any further follow through? And I don't know. I don't know. The higher we go into these areas, the more tricky it actually becomes to execute, right? So ideally, you already have your longs on. You know, again, it was recognizing these kinds of things and seeing what happened with Snap and how some of those stocks got bought back. That's why I got involved in Microsoft yesterday. I got involved in Facebook 2 days ago. I got involved in pins yesterday, and then we were looking for squeezes in some of these names. So I'm in Nikola of all stocks. We wanted to see if these types of stocks could break their levels to the upside. Path was one that we spoke about. I still didn't really add to this path because it broke so late in the day, but that $18 is a zone to pay attention to. So, you know, overall, I think it was a pretty good day. We got what we were looking for. Roku gave the inside day and up. That was on the list. Oh, NVIDIA. How could I not talk about NVIDIA? We talked about NVIDIA 160 as being key. It opened up right in front of 160. You could have bought it right in front of 160. Fantastic, fantastic follow through in this NVIDIA. It's exactly what we want to see. And that DKS yesterday was a big signal. We talked about that in yesterday's morning meeting, that if this could get bought up, it would be a big signal for the market. And that's what we're starting to see. We're starting to see these companies, they're so beaten up, then they're gapping them down 20% like they did with this DKS in their earnings report. And they're going, you know what, that report wasn't bad, but stock was down, you know, 30% this month going into the print. And now you're bringing it down another 15, 20% or whatever it was. So the market's buying these things up a little bit. That's another bullish signal broadly for this market. So we're seeing a lot of those bull signals that are out there. And we still do have the similar market dynamics to what we've spoken about all the people who are in cash, all the people who are hedged, all the people who are short, and that could just be fuel to the fire to the long side if this market wants to continue up. So, you know, again, a lot of good trades out there, whether it was, you know, Nikola that I was involved in, or some of those other spec stocks, and the Apple turnaround today was really big also. Apple was relatively weak this morning. We talked about this being a short or a long. It had bad news this morning. Even with that, they were able to buy this thing all the way back up through that 140 with conviction and give a really good close on this Apple. So things are definitely showing a lot of improvement, but we're not fully out of the woods yet. But to go with the term that I've been using continuously recently, cautious optimism. I think that's where we're at. Cautious optimism. So that is all I have got. So I'm trying to keep this one a little abbreviated because, like I said, talking sucks. But I am happy to answer any questions that you guys may have. Don't be afraid, guys. Don't be afraid to ask a few questions, even if I'm a little under the weather. It's fine. You're probably all sick of hearing me cough into the microphone. I'm trying not to do that. XLF closed above double bottom. Yep, it did. Let's see if we can get that upside follow through. You know, roughly here, 34 quarter, which is called 32 quarter, $2 a move. So you'd be looking for a move to 36 quarter off that, which brings you right back to the Fed high. It'd be impressive. We're talking about Citi. I don't know if anybody was able to get in the Citi over the course of the last couple of days. It's been on my radar, but I haven't been able to get in. We're talking about JP Morgan. JP Morgan's solid. So we'll see. From Justin. Do you think we would have moved higher earlier in the week if that snap is out? Yes. Justin asking, do I think we would have moved higher earlier in the week if the snap disaster did not happen? And I think my answer to that is yes. I was excited after this trading day. Right? I thought I was happy with how we came back up. A lot of the same signals that I just spoke about in the beginning of this meeting are signals that I was seeing here. But then guess what? Snap comes out after hours, sinks the entire market. Just crazy because of how small Snap is compared to the damage that it was able to do. Yet, even yesterday, the way we bought back up was another bullish signal. Because the market had the opportunity to use that as the excuse to give us one of those massive all-day selling days. Excuse me. And it didn't. So I thought we were set to move higher, and then Snap hit. It took a day and a half to re-get that, and now we've continued higher here. So yeah, for sure. CHPT. Sorry, thoughts on Amazon was the first question, then CHPT. Yeah, Amazon looks solid to me. Spoke about this one yesterday morning also, that I really liked, and this is another potential double bottom, by the way, right? We just looked at double bottom in the XLF, and I particularly like, and I don't know if XLF did this, we can look, I like when the second low on a potential double bottom breaks the first low but closes above, because it shakes out people who are using that low as a stop loss. It makes it even easier for it to go up. So same thing, it's not confirmed unless it starts getting above this high, which is 23.13. So right now we just have a potential double bottom, not a confirmed double bottom. But Amazon's looking a lot better. Amazon was also very early today the strongest FANG stock that was out there. So you had good relative strength in the beginning of the day today. And you know, I'm happy with how it looks. I was gonna make another point on it, but I forgot. And then I think the next question I saw in there was on CHPT, or just a comment. Yeah, this was another one of those stocks, another one of these growth stocks that's been in this consolidation pattern that broke up today. A lot of them did this. Really good looking. But now, you know, let's see what type of follow through we can get on these things. But this is a great day one. This is a great day to enter any of these stocks. If you enter any of these stocks today, they close on highs, you swing them, you're in a win-win situation, and you say, hey, let me see what they can do. You know, I'm swinging Nikola tonight. I hate this company. This company was just found a fraud. Oh, sorry, guys. This company was just found a fraud on the way down here. Yet here I am swinging it to the long side. Why am I doing that? Do I believe in Nikola? The answer to that question is definitely no. I don't. But as a technical trade here, you break in this resistance level. I got my risk more than covered. I'm in a win-win situation. It has a 40% short float. They could squeeze these shorts to $10. And I'll just ride the wave, right? That's all of what we're trying to do as a team, right? That's how we're maximizing our reward for the risk that we're putting on, is we're putting ourselves in those win-win situations, and then we're just sitting and letting them give us follow-through as much as possible. Or maybe not just sitting, also trading around a core position for cash flow while you wait to see if it can give you that next move. So, yeah, really good stuff with these growth stocks today. Josh saying long only demand across the desk today, says Bank of America desk. Aggressive demand this morning in NVIDIA when it was down. We're seeing a lot of short covering. SPX is plus 6.4% from the 520 lows. Wow. A bunch of coiled springs out there. That's the analogy that I keep using. They're selling ZS. It was up initially, right? Yeah, they pulled this thing back. Ooh, they pulled this thing back a lot. Ulta? I mean, Ulta's gonna gap up. Looks like solid earnings from Ulta. This stock's difficult to trade, and it's gonna open up right in the midst of all this sloppiness. I'm probably not gonna be looking to trade this tomorrow. But of course, it's a good sign to see this trading higher. From Jerry, the sock sell inside 5 call was money. VTNR was not. I was in the VTNR with you. It's my only losing name today. Yeah, so the sock sell was great. All these semis traded really well. I traded, new positions. I traded Nicola today, which I'm swinging because it worked out great. CPNG, which I got stopped out of on the pullback here. I got stopped out on this candle on the way down. And then I was in that VTNR with you also. This is the only one I could not get my risk covered on. The volume wasn't really there. I thought about pulling my buy stop, but I liked what the daily chart looked like, and I know somebody mentioned that they had a large short float, so it is what it is. I kept the risk pretty tight. I just used the low of this ignition bar as a stop loss. So I bought through yesterday's high, had my stop loss here, so I had like 10 cents worth of risk. Couldn't quite get my 1-to-1, got stopped out on it for a loss. From Robert, can we view Baba? It took 4 minutes for it to open on New York Stock Exchange. I'm not surprised to see that. Baba was a monster today. The earnings report looked really solid. So did so did the Baidu earnings report. I've been saying this for a while. Part of the reason that these things are at depressed prices is obviously because there is a inherent additional risk in being involved in a company that's outside of the United States, being involved in a company that is China-based. This Alibaba is so cheap. They have, what was the stat that I said? They have more annual users. They have more than, their annual usership is 4 times the United States population. Just sick. Like, crazy. Such a good company. Obviously took a hit with the Jack Ma situation and everything else, but these prices are ridiculous for this company. Solid earnings report, traded up massively on it. I honestly didn't overly have it on my radar, probably should have, but this thing traded fantastically very early. I don't really see, just looking at my 5-minute chart, any great spot to actually execute intraday today. Oh, that reminds me of that pen intraday. How'd pen close today? This pen was a great, somebody communicated this pen in here on this 5-minute. This was a great little spot to get some stuff. But anyway, I don't see a spot to be able to actually execute this Alibaba, but it was a phenomenal trade. You think this could be a positive signal for the Chinese market? Yeah. China's obviously going through some issues right now. We saw that language come out that said that they're having more issues now than they had in 2020. But they're coming back online, right? We also saw that headline, which probably helped the entire market sentiment, that Shanghai should be fully back online on June 1st, I think. So that obviously could change if they find just one case of COVID in the wrong place. But I think China wants to get past this COVID zero also. So, yeah, great up move in the Chinese stocks today. Intel versus AMD. Did Intel performed today too. They're like totally different plays in this space. AMD's your growth. Intel's your value. I know that there's a bullish case to be made on the new infrastructure that Intel's building out in the United States. Maybe that can see its multiple pick up a little bit. The fundamentals are just vastly different between these companies, right? In terms of PE multiples and things like that. As far as your technicals go, Intel's a bit sloppy here. Traded up into the 21 EMA. I don't really see any reason to buy this like tomorrow. The technicals on AMD look better than the technicals on Intel, but you do want to see this AMD actually get and hold above $100, and it's probably going to be too extended to buy that tomorrow. We were looking at that the last time it was up there, and obviously the market weakened, but the last time it was breaking through $100, the moving averages are in the exact same spot, and we're like, gosh, it's a little bit too extended to expect that follow through. So it's kind of the same thing going into tomorrow. I would love to see it break $100. I'd love to see it also consolidate further though, because that would actually give us a trade. So there's your short answer. So from Eddie here, notice you're in Labu. I entered it today. Speak a little bit about your thesis in Labu as well as your angst on Tesla. You got routed a little bit pre-market against Tesla from Stefan. Well, Stefan, you just got to know the players here in the VTF, right? Stefan is going to be an eternal bear on a company like Tesla. And that's fine, because Stefan adds a tremendous amount of value to the team here overall, and it's given us, honestly, some of the best winners that we've had over the course of the last year. But he has his approach, and we all need to have our approach. You have to have the approach that makes sense to us. And one of the things that I think makes our team so strong is the diversity of approach, the diversity of opinions, right? We have a lot of different people here with a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different experience levels, a lot of different approaches. And that's great. So I'm always trying to learn personally from everyone else. I want to learn from everybody's approach. I want to know why Stefan thinks that way, why someone else who might be a Tesla bull thinks that way, why a technical trader thinks and executes the way he does, why a fundamental trader thinks and executes the way he does. I want to draw out the best of all those worlds and put it inside me in a way that makes most sense for me, and in a way where I can maximize my own success and my own profits, right? So I'll start with Tesla, then I guess I go to biotech. So when it comes to Tesla, I've generally leaned more towards the bear side of Tesla than the bull side of Tesla, to be honest with you. And that has largely been a mistake, because the stock has mainly gone up, right? And I've traded in both directions. At one point in time, I took a decent sized loss in Tesla to the short side. But we had a fantastic quad as a team on the short side here on April 26th. And this would be a fantastic swing, by the way, if anybody still had this. Clear support level here around 974, 975. Just was trading super weak that day. I remember the only issue with that was that there was a lot of downside momentum coming into the stock. And you had to like really kind of take on a decent amount of spacing risk in order to get that short for that breakdown. But if you weren't afraid to do that, what a phenomenal swing trade to the short side. Trading from 975 down to 650. And I don't want to speak for Stefan, but I think Stefan is short from above $900. And he's got a fundamental view on a lot of what he does, and I would like to think that I've helped him to add in a degree of technical execution to his trading also that he's probably still working on. So I certainly understand the bear case for Tesla. The bear case for Tesla makes more sense to me than the bull case for Tesla, but your technicals need to confirm it, because I'm wrong all the time. I have ideas that are wrong all the time. So I don't want to execute on my idea, again, unless the technicals are really confirming it. And on this day, that breakdown day, well, the technicals certainly confirmed the thesis, right? We know that Tesla has been able to trade at insane multiples, right? And continue to go up. And a lot of that is built around the cult of Elon Musk. And I think he's done a lot of damage to his cult, to be honest, over the course of the last month, with what he's doing with Twitter. I said this from the beginning. When the Twitter saga first started happening, I was like, and that was early April, I was like, you shouldn't be more, if you're a Tesla shareholder, you should be pissed. Why do you want this guy focusing on Twitter? You want him focusing on your company, right? He's an engineer. He's done a fantastic job. You got to give him credit. He has done a fantastic job building out this company, building out SpaceX. That's what his focus is, or should be. And now he's getting involved in this Twitter, and he's taking loans against his stock. He's also selling stock. He's selling stock to raise money for Twitter. He's taking a loan against his stock. That could lead to a margin call if the stock goes down a lot. You don't want this guy taking risk like this on your stock that you're involved in. And then at the same time, and I don't want to get involved in politics, I just want to talk about how it affects the stock. The things that he has said about like becoming more of a Republican than a Democrat or whatever. But you just have to recognize that, like, based on what he does, like electronic cars, like the people that were the first buyers of his cars are your, oil-hating Democrats who are in California. primarily. The first time I ever saw a Tesla was in California years ago. I think that was in 2012, maybe. It was the first time I ever saw a Tesla. I was on vacation in California. It was the first time I'd ever been to California. My now wife and I, we did a really cool road trip up Highway 1. And I remember, I was in LA, I had my rental car, and then oh my God, there was a Tesla. And I was like, wow, I've never seen a Tesla before. I remember like speeding up to be able to get to the side of it to be able to check it out. A guy built this amazing cult, and he's been able to build this great company off of it. But it trades at an insane multiple. And at this point in time, everybody's got an electric car. That's your bare thesis. You have to have your technicals confirm it. And Tesla, at the end of the day, is a growth stock. So when growth stocks are performing, and they did tend to do pretty well today, this is also going to perform. The real question is how much more can those multiples get compressed in some of these companies? And what I keep saying is I think that the multiples are as compressed as they're going to be broadly for the market, provided that we don't go into a recession. And then even if we go into a recession, it depends on what that recession looks like. Because we might have a technical recession where we have 2 quarters in a row of negative GDP growth, but no one loses their job. Right? Because you got, last we saw, 12 million people, 12 million open jobs, and 6 million people looking for jobs. And we did see PayPal today say that they're going to actually cut some people. But I think that's the first time we've seen cuts. We've seen Snap, we've seen Uber say that they're having hiring freezes. We haven't seen cuts. So like we could technically go into a recession, which should compress multiples further. I mean, that's the whole case of the big banks bear analysts that are talking about a move down to 3,400 for the S&P. But it might not be that typical recession of what we've seen in the past where everyone's losing their job and you're really worried about job security and all that. It could just be some compression of the insanity that we've seen. So I think that unless we go into a bad recession, that multiples are generally as compressed as they want to become. But that's not true for every stock on the market. There's definitely some things out there that are still very expensive that could come down further. Tesla's one of them. GameStop is obviously one of them. There's others. So we'll see how that plays out. So that's the thesis, right, Eddie? And a lot of times what Stefan, who's been a great asset to our team, is going to be talking about is the thesis. And that's a tremendous amount of value. But then you have to have your technicals confirm it. And it doesn't mean that you can't take a trade on the opposite side of your thesis sometimes, like I did with Nikola today. With that said, I find personally that I make the most amount of money when I have a thesis and the technicals confirm my thesis. I'm not going to make a ton of money in Nikola. I didn't take the trade huge. I'm not swinging a very large position. To me, this is just a trade. I'll make the big money in something that I really believe in when I see the technical trigger and I take big size on it and I'm super greedy on it because I really believe in it. So I hope that helps. So XBI, Labu is just the leveraged ETF of XBI. This has been something I've been trading pretty consistently for months now. And overall, Labu has been a great trading vehicle for me because it had so much volatility. I've been able to be in and out of it and trade it really consistently. I actually am starting to like the product much less at these prices that Labu's at because it's just too cheap. The same volatility that was making me really good money back when this thing was in the mid-teens here just doesn't exist anymore when it's at $5. Now, I'm sure on a percentage basis it does, but on an absolute basis it's not. So this is not something that I enjoy as much as I did previously. I've been sticking with it. I've gotten bigger, I've gotten smaller. I remember being really big off of this low and then catching this move up to my $20 target and liquidating almost my entire position in front of 20. And then I tried to get heavier in here, and then I got stopped out of some of it because that trade failed. And I've kind of held a core position on it ever since, though it's gotten a lot smaller in certain spots and then bigger in others. So overall, I've traded this thing pretty well, and I'm pretty happy with it. But I don't like how it trades anymore at this $5 area. As far as the thesis goes, I was still really attracted when one of you guys posted that data point about for like XBI as a whole, the amount of cash that these companies have versus like the value of those companies, it had me seeming, it seemed to me, and obviously it's a very speculative sector, it seemed to me that the sector's gotten very cheap here. So it's kind of part of the thesis. And then from a technical perspective, it's been a little bit mixed. Overall, I really like I like anything that made a low on May 12th and didn't make equal or new lows. Because that's what the SPYs did. That's what the Qs did. It's not what the IWM did. It is not what XBI did. So I like that relative strength that's in there. Maybe the market's realizing what I realize, that it's getting cheap here. But obviously this is a very, at the same time as I'm seeing it as being cheaper, this is also a very speculative sector. So it tends to move, I've found, with a lot of just things that are broadly spec considered. Like honestly, a lot of the growth stocks. And, I mean, think about what it's composed of, right? Biotech stocks. And I hate trading individual biotech stocks, by the way. But trading the sector, it's a little bit different because I'm not exposed to that individual stock risk. So yeah, it's built out this consolidation pattern in here. It did make those new lows, which is relatively strong, but I did not like how it traded the last couple of days in here. I thought it was a bit relatively weak. I felt it was weak today again also. Like, this thing should be back at $71 right now. Because that's what a lot of those other growthy type things are that have a similar pattern. They're at the high of their range or they broke out of it. And this is still $3 below it on a $70 ETF. It's not great. So overall relative strength in the second half of May so far, but relative weakness the last few days has me concerned. But it hasn't broken down either. So we'll see what happens at this point. I think, if you start losing yesterday's low, you got to get out of the way. And then obviously what you want is for this thing to start clearing up like a lot of those other things did. If this thing can clear up, I think it's a pretty straight shot back to $80 in it. But it just hasn't proven itself recently. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm keeping this Labu, like I said, I've always kept even like a little bit here, even on the way down, and I rotted in a little position, looking to size back up. But I've hit the point now because I'm just not making the money that I was making. Like, I was able to make really good money on these Labu days in here, just trading kind of the volatility and having a core position and trade around it, and then getting smaller in certain spots and getting bigger in certain spots. And I'm not making the money in this consolidation that I was making in this consolidation. I think it's just because the price of the stock is so much more depressed from where it was. I'm just not getting movements that are big enough on a dollar basis to pay me. So because of that, now I'm keeping this thing on a very short leash. I'm ready to get out of it entirely. But I'm still giving it a chance to be able to work. But if it starts breaking those lows, I'm probably going to be done with it entirely pretty soon. Hope that helps, Eddie. And great question, by the way. Always feel free to bring up those questions and concerns. From Geoff on Intel, which we were talking about before. Intel has huge growth potential if they can execute on building a state-of-the-art fab for the smallest node processes. It's a very big if, given the recent process manufacturing issues. Yeah, that's been the big problem. Is it value or is it a value trap? Because they haven't really been able to compete. But worth paying attention to. Awesome, Judy. Yep. Eddie, I think he's pro making money based on his approach. Because if you saw what he was talking about with that salmon earlier, one of the things he likes about salmon is that it's more eco-friendly than, pig or cow farming. And I can support that too. Love having you in here, Judy. Alright, gang. I am under the weather, and it's almost 5 o'clock here, so I'm going to close it out and rest up. Good afternoon meeting today. Good trading day today. I will see everybody tomorrow morning. Have a great night.